All right, so we'll keep going. So far we have kind of this front quarter panel, and it's a little wobbly coming through. Yours might be a little bit smoother than mine. Again, I'm not worried about that too much right now. Excuse me. Next thing we're going to do is, up to this point, we've been getting our detail by adding subdivisions. There's a couple of ways to go about doing this, and different people have different strategies or different ways that work for them. The way that I like to do it is to extrude and just pull it all the way across, and then go ahead and kind of arrange these vertexes where they need to be. So I'm going to try to size up just this actual front door here. And we're fortunate that we do have these kind of shape guides going along the side of the car so we can mimic and match where our vertexes go. But once we get down to this generic shape here, then I like to come in, and that's when I add in more divisions. So I'm just going to add in a few divisions here. And then it's just a matter of grabbing these and kind of moving them to the shape that I want that matches the kind of the shape of the car that I'm looking at. So sometimes I'm going to go back and forth. I want to see the car, but I also I need to be able to see my vertexes, right? So sometimes that's hard, but one way that we can work with that is to add kind of a transparent material to this shape. So I'm going to come back to object mode, and I have my shape here. I'm going to come to my material. I'm going to add a new material to it. And then my alpha, I'm just going to turn it way down. Maybe like 10% or whatever, 40%, 15%, whatever looks good to you. And then as I come in, I can see my shape, but I can also see the car contours kind of behind my shape. And working through it like that gives me a little bit more control over where I'm going to want all of these vertexes to go. And you're going to get some issues. Like here, I know my wheel well needs this extra detail right here. I'm not going to worry about that just now. I am going to add that in as detail later. But the goal is just to try to get things lined up so that everything has a fairly smooth contour associated with it. And same thing here. I'm just going to follow along with the bottom of this door just to kind of get the shape that I want. Whoops. And that's working with what I've got. Now, this piece here is a straight line. We know that these cars, they're contoured. There's very rarely going to be super straight lines. So all I'm going to do is just try to come through. And I really just want to make sure that I keep these kind of in the center of these two vertexes. And again, while the whole time trying to keep everything from being too many really hard edges. So if this is up here, I consider that a hard edge, right? There's a really weird angle there. Nothing on this car is going to have a really hard edge like that. So we want to maintain the softness as we can and just go through the shape. So there's one strategy to kind of making the car detail. The next strategy, which a lot of people use, it's really the same thing. It's just how do you go about the process. So you can grab these edges, and then you're going to extrude, and you just want to pull them straight back. And this is where you kind of line up your mesh, right? So you extrude off just one, you line up your mesh, which again, this is pretty consistent with where it's supposed to be. So I got fortunate there. But then the next time you're going to extrude again, and you're going to line up the mesh again, and I'm going to do this here. And then with the same vertexes, you know, I know that my car is eventually going to have this contour on the door, so I need to start stretching some of these vertexes out in order to be able to get that detail. And I think I'm going to extrude maybe even just one more time. And I think this shape is close. So back to the edges. Extrude one more time. Whoops. And then it's just a matter of moving the vertices. And again, we're going to be following kind of the shape of the door here. And it's not exact one-to-one, right? But we're getting as much detail as we can. It looks like we're going to need extra edge loops to get the detail of kind of the shoulder of the car here, which is expected. You know, we're going to be adding detail as we go for certain parts, but what I don't want to do is add a ton of detail here up front. So then, even though I can make this basic shape of this door with these 12 pieces, if I add a whole bunch of detail, I could have 40 pieces right here, and I don't want to be moving all of those individual vertexes. So I'm trying to stay as generic as I can with the shape right now, and then we'll come back and we'll make it a little bit more in depth as we go. And this even, I can get a little bit more detail here. I'm going to move these back. And then I'll just grab these two edges and I'll extrude those. Right off the car. And then kind of shape those new vertexes to where I think they need to be. And I think I'm going to follow the wheel well here and worry about this kind of door detail later. Because now I can come back and same thing with these edges again. And I'm going to go back to my original technique that I kind of prefer. I'm going to extrude these edges. I'm just going to pull them all the way to the back of the car. And then I can get the vertexes in position where they need to be. And then I'm also going to take this bottom edge here, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude it and pull it all the way down to the bottom of the car. And then the same thing, just getting these vertexes kind of where they need to be. And then it's a matter of inserting these edge loops here just to try to get more of the detail that I know that I need. And there's not going to be, it looks like there's definitely not going to be enough vertexes to map out the shape of this wheel well. So we will end up needing some extras. I guess I can just go ahead and add an extra one in here, maybe here even. And that's going to give me the ability to shape out the wheel well with the organic process that I need. And that's going to give me a little bit more detail anyway to work with. But just like the front wheel well, I'm not going to worry too much about getting that shape exact, right? I'm going to have to do some work on it kind of at the end. But the general idea is just to try your best to kind of line up the vertexes with the primary contours of the car. And I'm just going to go ahead and move these out really quickly just to kind of get my very, very generic car shape. And it looks like to me there's a contour that kind of runs here. So I'm going to make an edge loop that follows that contour. And that's going to mean I have to clean up a little bit on some of the other pieces. but it's not going to be too much. Now, I need another edge here to match this contour, but I'm not worried about that right now. And I'm probably going to need to change kind of the shape of my wheel well here anyway. That's something we're going to have to look at and figure out what that looks like. But for now, I think it's good enough. So as you get done with that, then you're going to need to come in and make the kind of the frame of the top of the car. And this is interesting because you can see here that this is definitely the top of the car. We are not modeling the top right now. We're only working on the side, so we're only working on the door frame, really. We're not worried about the top of the car specifically. So, in order to do that, we just come in, and I think I'm just going to start, it looks like maybe the door frame comes off from here and then goes up. So, I'm going to start with that, with just this piece, and I'm going to extrude these edges up here. And like I've done every time, I'm just going to try to move the vertexes into place where they belong. And then I think I can probably just do a little work with the edges. Extrude and pull it up. Extrude, 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 extrude. Going to make a whole bunch of faces and then come back in and just kind of work on them one at a time. Let's work on following the contour of my door frame here. And I know this part's not exciting. I could maybe speed through this part of the video, but I'm just not going to. I'm going to go through and actually do the process just really quickly. I got about 3 minutes left in this recording, so we'll see if I can get my whole door frame kind of done. So you noticed I pulled off a ton of faces going up. I'm going to need more than I pulled off, but it's a really good way to get started. And again, we're looking at creating the generic shape, right? So sometimes you know you need more detail, but you're just working with just enough detail to kind of get an idea of where you're at. So I'm going to come back here. I know that this edge here is going to connect to this edge. And this is something that we're familiar with. Before we've done a oh goodness, what was it called? A mesh. Oh my goodness. Geez, I couldn't find it. It's edge and then bridge edge loops, and we know that we're just connecting these, right? So we can connect them with one. And then we bring up this option here for the edge loops, and we can tell it to give it more cuts. And it's going to try and make some contour with it. We don't need it to do that contour, but we're going to get the loops that we need. In this case, I think I can do it with just 2 probably. And then in my last minute, the idea is just to come in vertex mode, move the verts to where they need to be. We are familiar with this. We've done it before. So it's creating as much detail as you can quickly. And when you're done, hopefully, as you finish, we'll turn the alpha back up. And we can look around. And hopefully what you've done is create just the side profile of a car. I would need to extrude the edges down here to get the center of the doors, but that's the gist of it. We'll see you in the next video for the top.